Hey, this is Robert Monroe. It is super early, courtesy of this lovely girl here. And let's get topical again. So, Elon is going to buy Twitter. I wonder what that's going to do. Is this going to be the world's most amazing thing ever? Or is this going to be the worst thing that has ever happened in the entire world and it's all over? As you probably would expect, my opinion is going to be somewhere in the middle because, like everything that we talk about, it's nowhere near as cut and dried as people try to make it out to be. So let's just talk about it. So let's just give a little bit of background. Elon Musk, probably don't need to introduce that man too much. Worked at PayPal, has done the whole Tesla thing, got SpaceX going. Basically, super successful dude, controversial dude, because he posts like he's sometimes a 13-year-old on Twitter and says kind of ridiculous things and offensive things, and sometimes funny things, and sometimes things he thinks that are funny that are not funny. So that's Elon Musk. And Twitter, is a big deal in social media, and a lot of ways people think Twitter is a big deal in terms of news stories, because a lot of times the very first place you'll see anything related to the news is on Twitter. But in the grand scheme of things, it's actually one of the smaller major social media players. I think it's like something like 300 million active users or something, which is a lot. Don't get me wrong. That's basically the size of the United States. But in terms of, some place like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, it's actually not massive numbers. So anyway, let's get into what the deal is. So he's going to buy it because he wants to have it be a free speech platform, or is that basically what he said? And mostly he just basically does the whole, it almost feels like a crypto sort of promise, like, I'm going to take you guys to the moon if you let me buy this. So he's gone through all that. It sounds like the Twitter board is looking to accept it. So what does this mean? I guess that's the first thing to say. First, let's start with people who aren't even on Twitter. What does that mean? Well, the short answer is it's going to give news outlets more stuff to talk about, because I know I've seen at least way too many CNN, Fox stories that are just, hey, this person tweeted that. And a lot of the most controversial people have actually been banned or suspended from Twitter, so they have had less to talk about because of that. So if you think that this is going to help our news situation, I think it's actually potentially going to hurt it, at least in terms of the mainstream outlets, because you're just going to have more people going, oh, I can't believe that he tweeted this. Oh, how dare she say that? And that whole thing is going to just get, I think, even crazier. If you're on Twitter, I think the main thing he's trying to do is remove a lot of the reasons why they ban and suspend accounts, and go with just a more speech is better sort of model for free speech, which would effectively mean that, if you're somebody who skirts on the line with certain ban phrases and things that they have, then you probably don't have to worry as much. And my guess is this might start a ripple effect one way or the other. People will either love that about Twitter, start going there, and then the other social media outlets will have to change, or they're going to really dislike it and they're going to go and run away. That's probably the implications, at least short term, to what it is. I think if you look at broader implications, it has to do with what we think social media really is in the world. Is it a private company and a private enterprise, or is it utility? Because if it's a utility or a public good, then this decision might actually ultimately end up in the government buying all of these social media platforms, because Elon might do something a little crazy, a little too hard to swallow, and then people will just come in and start pushing for legislation that has the government control all of these or own all of these. So anyway, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the two major opinions in this. Opinion number one is really super wealthy dude makes a unilateral decision for the most part and causes a massive effect on our lives, and people don't like that. And people don't like that people are able to do that. So that's one opinion. And I mean, I get where they're coming from. It's like, it's crazy if you think about it. Something that we use all the time that right now is at least a public company. So you at least kind of have the idea that, you buy a couple Twitter shares, you write to the board, and maybe you have a voice in what happens on Twitter. In reality, I'm not positive that's actually what happens, but we're going from that to Elon would just own Twitter, so he could effectively, as long as it's legal, do whatever he wants with it. So I understand that concern, but it's kind of a naive take on the world. If you actually think about it, the world is in a fairer place than it's been in a long time, because not long ago, if we go even back to the feudal period, you'd have feudal lords, and they would be able to basically just tell you to do whatever you want. And really the only source of power was sort of this governmental power. So I think it's almost humanity dealing with the difficulty of the fact that we kind of now have corporate power and we have government power, and they're almost the same size, which is crazy because I'm not positive that's really happened too often before in human history. Then you have the other crowd. This other crowd is going, Elon is going to fix Twitter, and he's going to literally fix the United States democracy through Twitter. This, I think, might be crazier than the first point of view. And here's the reason why. Well, first of all, Twitter is a global proposition. And if anything, it's actually one of the more global and less American, social media platforms. And I think this might do something to help with all global discourse potentially, but it's not the type of thing where it's going to just, on a dime change everything. And there's going to be all sorts of unintended consequences. So, for example, if a lot of suspensions are lifted and accounts are unbanned, the Wild Wild West has a lot more unsafe content and a lot of other personal difficulties that are introduced. So the burden to to curate and therefore have a good user experience will fall more on the end user, so each of us. So it might actually make Twitter a harder platform to use and to navigate. And that might ultimately end up actually making Twitter less optimal and people leaving Twitter. So I don't think it's really simple and just clear to just say this is good or this is bad. And I think anything that says that this is either the end of the world or the beginning of, a new era of, amazing geopolitical movements, that's all a little kind of crazy, as you'd imagine. So anyway, I don't get topical too often, but this is kind of a big one. And I'm on Twitter a lot, actually. My Twitter will be in the description. And yeah, so you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you guys later.